With the IMF forecasting a modest 1% growth rate for South Africa in 2024, businesses are now realizing that they're not confined to competing within the domestic market. Growth-oriented businesses are increasingly turning to cross-border trade as a strategy to enhance their bottom line and diversify their revenue streams. And joining us to unpack the importance of cross-border trade for African entrepreneurs is Sejeng Matlhako, Head of Regional Transactional Banking Sales at Absa CIB. Thank you so much for your time, Sejeng. Now, how much opportunity exists for South African businesses in the area of cross-border trade, and how reliant is it on the AfCFTA?
Good afternoon, Noltando, and thank you for having me. Look, the opportunity is vast. We know that as it relates to the AfCFTA, there's going to be quite a number of jobs, and maybe just to a certain extent, the amount is in the billions, right? But I think the narrative that I would want to maybe just share with you today as it relates to South African businesses is one, to the point that you made earlier, is around we have to be a disruptive force. Yeah. To be a disruptive force, you definitely need to be talking about diversification in the market and looking at opportunities in different ways. And in my mind, exactly the issue about cross-border trade, which is, can we look outside of South Africa? I mean, the growth is muted at this point, 1% growth. We know what's happening in the economy. However, we do have a broader and a bigger economy in the African continent. And the AfCFTA is actually really promising that we can actually look at trading with each other in a free tariff kind of situation. I also think that the other, so I've mentioned one, the other is for me, being aware of your cash flows to a certain extent, right? And making sure that as you take up these opportunities, be sure that you've got the right kind of capital, right kind of cash flows, and more than anything, I think also the right type of funding and finance for the right type of for whatever it is that you're doing. So don't take long-term debt if you're intending to fund short-term. And I mean, there's various solutions. And in my mind, the last thing that I probably would want to say is also our clients in the domestic market really, or entrepreneurs in the domestic market really ought to be thinking about opportunities that are there. So are we aware of what's happening in the ESG space, ESG being environmental, social and governance? Are we aware what's happening in that space? Are you aware what's happening within the AfCFTA environment, right? And how are you actually taking charge of those opportunities in order for you to grow your business or at least diversify? And maybe suppose lastly would be the issue around partnerships, because we are seeing more and more that if you are intending to go alone, you won't get far. But if you want to go and partner with various partnerships, fintechs, DFIs, you are likely to go further.
So, Sejeng, let's also talk about, the fact that South African businesses actually are very inward-looking, and a part of it can actually result from risk issues and de-risking across border trade. Let's talk about that, and just the risk aspects that need to be considered and how they could possibly be a deterrent for that cross-border trade.
I actually missed that question a little bit towards the end, Noltando.
Yes, I was just speaking about de-risking across border trade, to make sure that it's not a deterrent, the issue of risk for South African businesses.
Absolutely. So I think it's what I touched on towards the end, the issue around partnerships. I mean, in the Absa environment at the moment, we are really, really making sure that we partner with DFIs, so developmental fund institutions, that are actually helping us as a bank, number one, as a financier, and also helping so how you structure these things also helps that we at least make sure that the risk is sufficiently solved for both the entrepreneur and for both the bank and the economy as a whole. And I think that is definitely an important point. In fact, I was thinking about it as I was preparing for this, that risk management in this time is probably one of the biggest aspects over and above the diversification, or when looking at opportunities. definitely think about the risk hit on the side of it.
Sejeng, in terms of access to finance, is there some sort of tension between traditional banks and fintech lenders in terms of also just lending themselves to specific needs for businesses, and also what businesses need to be cognizant of when they're looking at which lender to partner with?
Definitely, right. I think there's definitely a little bit of tension that in my mind should not be there. And this is why I mentioned the issue around partnerships. So we partner with a lot of fintechs and continuously also looking for partnership with fintechs. One, so that we can actually deliver this nimble solution, because as a financier, you've got capabilities to a certain point of view, to a certain point. As a fintech, you've got capabilities to a certain point, and therefore, why not this partnership that I'm talking about, that actually one helps us to deliver to all the entrepreneurs, to our clients in a swifter manner, in order to build the African economy.
So, Sejeng, I also want to speak about, as Inati mentioned it earlier, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement here, and the possibility at this point that businesses are becoming disenchanted with this dream because it is taking so long. Let's talk about that, because we have spoken, of course, about knowing the opportunities that are available to you as a result of it. But, where are we in terms of it? And as, a financier, are you seeing transactions emerge? Where are we?
Honestly speaking, transactions have always been there. Cross-border transactions between businesses. I think the free trade area is actually just working on making sure that it's simpler, it's quicker, and it does provide those kinds of opportunities. We do know that there's been an announcement of the first deal that actually went through the free trade area by President Ramaphosa. And honestly speaking, Nolthando, there is quite a bit still to be done, but in my mind, it's getting there. For me, the announcement of the first transaction is saying to me that the second one can easily come through, the third one can come through. And this is where we need to be thinking about, as financiers, what are we doing around making sure for all the entrepreneurs, for all our clients, how do we then make sure that they've got access to the free trade area, and how they get access to the free trade area. And there's lots of opportunities, lots of information, I suppose, that we would have as well as financiers.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and unpacking those opportunities that do exist in a cross-border trade in Africa for South African businesses. That was Sejeng Matlhako, head of Regional Transactional Banking Sales at Absa CIB.